Saxon Switzerland in Germany and Bohemian Switzerland in Czech Republic. They far from Europe's famous high mountain ranges, so they are easy to overlook when planning a mountain trip. That would be a mistake. The elevations may be modest, but the landscape can be remarkably dramatic. Its sandstone cliffs, gorges and rock towers are among the most spectacular in Central Europe. We begin at Bastei, the best known landmark of Saxon Switzerland. The sandstone formation rises almost 200 meters above the river Elbe. The name Bastei is also associated with the famous bridge spanning the rocks. The first bridge was built for tourists in the 19th century. It was originally made of wood, but the place quickly became enormously popular. The wooden bridge was eventually replaced by the much stronger sandstone bridge we see today. We came early in the morning because by midday the place can get extremely crowded. The bridge is incredibly photogenic, especially when the forests turn colorful in autumn. Several centuries ago, Norwegian castles stood among the rocks beyond the present bridge. There is a small admission fee to enter the former castle grounds. Not much of the castle survives. Rock-cut chambers and water cistern are among the remains. One thing probably hasn't changed: the magnificent view. Exploring the whole site takes us about an hour, plus roughly 10 minutes to walk from the car park. Our next major attraction needs far less imagination. This one has survived remarkably well. Königstein Fortress is essentially a table mountain transformed into a huge fortified complex. A medieval castle already stood here in the 13th century, when the area belonged to Bohemia. The fortress towers above the river Elbe, an important trade route for centuries. The area passed into Saxon hands in the 15th century. Over the following centuries, the old castle gradually evolved into a fortress. One of the greatest challenges was securing a reliable water supply. The solution was extraordinary: a well 152.5 meters deep. One of the buildings contained a small exhibition devoted to military history. Despite the rather playful entrance, the exhibition itself is genuinely interesting. It deals intelligently with a number of much more serious subjects. It's a pity we allowed ourselves only about 2 hours. You could easily spend most of the day at Königstein. And with so much to see, it makes sense to get your money's worth. Now we cross into Bohemian Switzerland, to an area transformed by the enormous wildfire of 2022. 4 years later, the forest is regenerating, although the fire still affects access to several trails. From the village of Mezna, we descend about 150 meters into the Kirnitzsch Gorge. The river has carved a spectacular system of narrow sandstone canyons here. This section is known as the Wild Gorge, or Divoká Soutěska. Downstream lies the famous Edmund's Gorge, Edmundowa Soutěska. The picturesque path squeezes between the river and the sheer rock walls. After a few hundred meters, we reach a small boat landing. Some sections of these gorges can only be traveled by boat. The boat trip through the Wild Gorge is just under 400 meters long. The traditional journey through Edmund's Gorge was almost twice as long. The boatwoman not only propels the boat, but entertains the passengers along the way. Naturally, every rock formation that resembles anything has acquired a name. There is even a lover's island, complete with a suitably romantic sculpture. When this footage was recorded, the aftermath of the 2022 wildfire severely restricted access. Only part of the Wild Gorge route was open, so we had to turn back after the boat trip. As of 2026, the Wild Gorge still operates with restricted access, while several approach trails remain closed. Edmund's Gorge itself remains closed because of the dangerous fire-damaged trees and unstable rock. Before the fire, the gorge route continued all the way to Hřensko, where the Kamenice meets the Elbe. Hřensko is marked as a picturesque tourist village, although its center can feel more like a giant market. We tried to find at least one worthwhile souvenir. We failed. So we crossed the border again for another hike on the German side. Our destination is the Schrammsteine, a spectacular chain of jagged sandstone peaks. We begin with a short, fairly easy climb. The trail initially follows a picturesque wooden ravine. The name Schrammstein roughly evokes scarred or ridged rocks. And that describes these miniature mountains rather well. Their serrated sandstone towers rise high above the Elbe Valley. Now we reach the rocks themselves. Today's route is about 12 kilometers long, with roughly 450 meters of ascent. The final 100 vertical meters are tackled on a steep one-way section of trail. There are stairs and ladders everywhere, and it's great fun. Eventually, we reach the junction, with the trail running along the ridge. A moment later, we emerge onto the viewpoint. The place is simply fantastic. A narrow walkway threads its way between tightly packed sandstone pinnacles. And beneath your feet, mostly air. Whichever way you look, the scenery is magnificent. See for yourself. We continue along the ridge, the path barely fitting onto the narrow rock tops. A few more stairs and ladders finally bring us back to a wider trail. At last, something resembling a normal path, but the attractions aren't over yet. We emerge onto something that could almost equal a stone beach. With views like these, a half-hour break is almost compulsory. The trail continues towards the higher parts of the massif, but we need to return to the car. Instead, we descend the northern side through a picturesque little valley. The scenery just keeps surprising us. At times it looks almost like something from a western. We return along an easy track, looking back at the peaks we crossed only moments ago. These really are pocket-sized mountains, usually only 200 or 300 meters of climbing. But what they lack in height, they more than make up for in beauty. Back in Bohemian Switzerland, we entered the Dluhe Valley. This forest was devastated by the huge wildfire that swept through the national park in July 2022. It became the largest forest fire in the modern history of the Czech Republic. When we filmed here, only part of this trail had reopened after the fire. We are heading towards the Bohemian Switzerland's greatest landmark. At 10 o'clock the gates open, and there it is. Pravčická brána. It is Europe's largest natural sandstone arch, spanning about 26.5 meters at its base. Beside it stands the historic Falcon's Nest, today housing a restaurant and visitor facilities. We Because we arrived early, we can explore the surrounding terraces in relative peace. Visitors were once allowed to walk onto the arch itself, but that has been prohibited since 1982 to protect it. From the viewpoints, the enormous area affected by the 2022 fire is still. 4 years later, vegetation is returning, but the landscape remains dramatically changed. The elegant 19th century architecture of the Falcon's Nest is worth a closer look too. One important update for hikers. The trail from Tri Prameny is currently open from Friday to Sunday, but closed Monday to Thursday. Gabrielina Ścieżka from Mezeni Lauka, damaged by the 2022 fire, remains closed. Our next stop is something completely different, the oldest geological reserve in Czech Republic. The softer surrounding rock was gradually eroded away, leaving only the resistant volcanic core. As the basalt cooled, it fractured into remarkably regular columns, some of them reaching up to 20 meters in length. Following winding roads through the sandstone hills, we head towards another castle that no longer exists. Schrammsteine Castle stood here from the 14th until the 15th century. It was deliberately difficult to reach, the lowest sections were accessible only by ladders that defenders could pull up in case of attack. Not much of the castle has survived, although the bedroom seems to be in remarkably good condition. From the top of the rocks, as almost everywhere around here, there is another magnificent view. One of the few substantial remains of the old fortification is this large water cistern carved directly into the rock. The trail continues from the castle towards another attraction, which, as it turns out, isn't quite as impressive. Fortunately, the walk itself is beautiful, following a pleasant traverse through the rocks. The biggest problem with Mała Pravčická brama, the Little Pravčice Gate, is exactly what its name suggests. It's small, and, to be fair, not particularly exciting. Even the view from the terrace above feels like a weaker version of others we've already seen. At the end of the day, we can at least enjoy the comforts of the rather pleasant accommodation we found. For our last full day hike, we travel a little further into Germany. Getting there involves a rather unusual road, shared with a tram. As you can see, this can be slightly confusing for drivers. I wonder what stories the tram drivers tell over a glass of German schnapps after work. We park near Hinterhemsdorf and set off into what initially looks like an ordinary forest. It doesn't stay ordinary for long, when usually today's hike begins by going downhill. The entire route is about 16 kilometers, with roughly 450 meters of ascent. Our route takes us towards the Obere Schleuse. We begin our descent following a beautiful traverse along the rock walls. The landscape here is both beautiful and surprisingly wild. One of more inventive sections of the trail takes us straight to a natural rock tunnel. Another pleasant surprise is how few people we meet. For the first 2 hours of our hike, on this beautiful June day, we don't meet anyone at all. We leave the main track again and gradually descend towards the valley below. The German-Czech border runs along the valley. We stop at one of the viewpoints. Below us lies the valley of Kirnitzsch, known as the Krzynice on the Czech side. About half of today's route follows the river through its valley. At first it hardly looks like a gorge at all, more like a series of peaceful meadows. Around them are enormous, almost prehistoric looking fields of ferns. We finally begin to meet a few other hikers, although there still aren't many. It's warm and the river is far too inviting not to stop and cool our feet. For a while longer we continue beside the water. Some of the trees in Saxon Switzerland National Park are genuinely enormous. But here come the stairs again. The next section climbs higher above the river. And these stairs lead straight into another cave. They certainly know how to make sure a hiking trail never gets boring here. Fortunately, we don't wander through the darkness for long. Soon we are back in the sunshine. For a while, the trail traverses the slope high above the river. The scenery becomes increasingly rocky, with the sound of rushing water below us. We pass a steep trail climbing back towards the area we crossed about 2 hours earlier. Then we descend steeply again towards a small building visible below. And that's how we arrive at the boat landing. Yes, there are boats here too. A moment later, we are underway. We have the boat to ourselves, and our friendly guide switches to English. They have a lover's island here too. Ah, German humor. Instead of a romantic sculpture, there is a bra. The first boat landing, or the last one in our direction, is a beautiful little place. We stop for a well-earned break. Knoblauchwurst and ice cream. All that's left now is another encounter with the tram, and the journey back to our accommodation. The next morning we arrive at another car park, where luckily for us the ticket machine happens to be broken. From here it's just a short approach to the rocks. And in no time we are beneath the towers of Langerhorn massif. The Häntzschelstiege. This is where a fairly popular via ferrata begins, or Klettersteig as they are called locally. The slightly overhanging start is probably the hardest part of the entire route. I'm sure more than a few people have turned back here. Well, the first few steps are always the hardest. There is time for a quick breather and then we carry on. But let's not exaggerate, overall the route is very easy. Anyone reasonably fit with the right equipment and a little training should have no trouble completing it. A little further on it becomes really easy. In fact, you can practically walk here without using the safety cable. This via ferrata is very short and divided into 2 sections. The first one is already behind us. The second section begins with a chimney that's supposedly quite tight. That's a bit of an exaggeration. You can get through here even with a large backpack. Next comes a short traverse above a surprisingly deep crevice. There are comfortable metal steps to walk on. The fixed protection is in very good condition. We cross over to another vertical wall. And from here, it's straight up to the top. There is some decent exposure here, though it's nothing compared with the Dolomites. But the view is absolutely spectacular. What a beautiful place. The fixed protection gradually comes to an end. We emerge onto the rocks and take in the scenery. We continue along the ridge, only occasionally crossing metal bridges. It's really not that difficult. And crossing these gaps isn't nearly as scary as it might look. The reward for the effort is magnificent scenery and, of course, the satisfaction. The whole Klettersteig takes us about an hour. Mostly because of the queues. All that's left now is the descent through a picturesque gorge. A great little trip. On a rainy day we managed to visit an underground complex. That's not quite as simple as it sounds, because you have to arrange the visit in Czech the day before. In Lower Silesia there is the former German Riese complex. The Czech Republic has a similar underground factory complex, Rabštejn. By 1944, German factories had come within range of Allied air raids. Aircraft production was moved here to a former textile factory. Through an opening in the wall we enter empty, unfinished underground tunnels. Workers and prisoners prepared enormous underground halls for production. Machinery was brought in and production began. Some of that equipment remained in use in Czechoslovakia until the 1980s. And now it's time for a trip throughout Bohemian Switzerland. We set off from Jetřichovice. The trail winds between picturesque rock formations. As we climb towards a popular viewpoint, the final section involves steep stairs and walkways. At the top of Mariina skála stands a beautiful little pavilion. Astonishing photographs of this pavilion surrounded by morning mist appear everywhere on regional websites and in tourist brochures. Today's plan is a loop through these hills, taking in one more viewpoint along the way. Simply walking among the rocks and the vivid spring greenery is a pleasure in itself. Eventually, we reach a huge rock tower rising high above the forest, once known as Ostroh. As usual, we reach the summit by climbing a set of steep stairs. At the top we find an amusing little pavilion that looks rather like a chicken coop. Inside hangs a portrait of the local prince, who popularized the summit and renamed it after himself. It's time to bring this several-hour walk to an end. We return through an idyllic valley, looking back at the viewpoints towering above us that we've already visited. It's time to head home, but there is room for one last stop. We visit a rhododendron park and the curious Rakotzbrücke or Devil's Bridge. The surrounding basalt columns are real, but they were brought here from elsewhere. The whole composition is a 19th century landscape folly. Up close it looks a little less impressive than in photographs. And with that, we've reached the end. Thanks for watching.